What's up, everybody? Coach Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Valorant video. And in this video, we're going to be breaking down the low-ranked Valorant experience. Some of the biggest problems that is happening at every rank besides the highest ranks, and targeted tips about what you can do about it to still overcome it anyways and start to climb the ladder. So we're going to break all that down, but go to the GameLeap website right now for our special 50% off summer sale. There's never been a better time to get that fat GameLeap sub and access all the in-depth advanced guides, VOD reviews, and tips and tricks that you won't find anywhere else. Do yourself a favor, go check it out right now so that you don't miss out. But without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now let's start off with the first big problem that happens to every single player in low rank, and it's the fact that no one communicates and players just do their own thing. Now, unfortunately, this is gonna happen a lot, pretty much no matter what rank you're at, but at the lower ranks, it feels like it happens more and more the lower down you go. Now, the first thing that you could try to do is add to the communication. Sometimes players are listening, they might not be talking, but they're still receptive to communication, but a lot of times that's still not gonna be the case. Most of the time, you're gonna have to win in spite of no communication. Now, the first thing you could do is analyze what your teammates are doing and try to help them. Even if they're not telling you what they're doing, it's still good for you to analyze, notice what they're doing, try to create refrag scenarios, even if they're really not talking about how to make this happen. The next thing you could do is just have more proactive plans, just solo, ways to find impact without your team. So things like lurks are very powerful in low rank, and it's something that you don't really need a lot of communication to pull off. And of course, make sure to mute any toxic or passive aggressive people, because it's only going to get you tilted and they're not going to be helping at all with their communication. Now, let's move on to the second big problem in the low ranked experience, and it's the fact that everyone baits everyone. Now, that being said, if you're a duelist, you feel like you go in ham, you dash in, you get a kill, you create space, but you never get traded and your teammates never come in with you. Or if you're not a duelist, you feel like your duelists just stand around and never freaking go in. Now, sometimes the duelist actually becomes very jaded from their environment, right? Every time they've gone in the past, they just feel like they die and get nothing done, and they feel like they can get a lot more if they let some of their teammates sacrifice their lives to get kills. Even though that's not the right way to play, everyone becomes a product of their environment, right? And when you have people that just don't do their job no matter what role they're on, you get pretty jaded. It doesn't matter what role you're playing. Now, something that you can do to your fellow duelist, if you want to make him feel more comfortable, make sure that you say, hey, I'll follow in with you, I'll go in with you, let's go in. This person will become a lot more confident about going in because you're gonna actually go in with them. You're gonna make sure that at the very least they're not going in alone. And then as a duelist yourself, I wouldn't suggest always just going psycho and trying to take point control, because there is going to be a giant percentage of the time where your teammates just don't follow up and don't go in. You can ping, you can wait for your teammates to push up to the choke points before you go in, because while a lot of the time when you clear all the angles already, your teammates should just be beelining it to you to come take point control with you. They're not going to always do that. You don't want to end up in a situation where you take site control, but no one is there to help you. Now, the next problem that happens a lot of people talk about this in the comments section and just in general, and it's the fact that Smurfs are everywhere. And it just feels like every single game you're running into an enemy Smurf. Now, unfortunately, right now, for the start of the season, smurfing is going to be pretty bad. A lot of people don't want to play on their mains because the rank system is kind of wonky right now, especially right after a new patch starts. So you are going to definitely run into more smurfs, but you're also going to get some more smurfs on your team. So sometimes it ends up being a wash, even though it feels really frustrating to be losing to a smurf. Now, if you can identify that star player, what I would highly suggest you do is take any kill or shutdown on that player as a win. Like, you don't have to win the game. Just focus on trying to shut down that player, because as you improve, as you get better, you're going to run into these all-star players more and more, and your ability to have impact against them is going to be a big thing that's going to decide whether you win or lose. And I think that's far better to focus on than just getting tilted and mad because they have a smurf and you don't, and you're probably going to lose that game. Doesn't mean you can't earn something from it or gain something by it. Now, the next thing that's going to happen a lot, I mean, it really can happen in every single rank, but I'm just saying for the low ranks, it definitely happens, and that's garbage team compositions. You got no smokes, you got no initiators, you got 4 duelists. I don't care what the team composition is, but it's obvious that it's freaking trash, right? You definitely have had this in your game. Now, the thing is, even a composition that is quote-unquote trash, there is always strengths and weaknesses of said composition. If you don't have a smoke, and you can't smoke off a certain sightline, you cannot play in a way that constantly peaks that sightline. you have to play fundamentally different. You have to do what you can, whether that's AoEing a window, or whether that's routing in a certain way that you don't even peek it at all, or maybe you challenge it yourself with a long-range weapon like an operator or even a vandal. Well, yes, it's amazing to have, you know, the right composition that everyone can just fill every single problem and solve every problem you run into. Just because you have a good composition doesn't mean that's going to get done. And a lot of times, smokers, controller players, duelists are not even playing their role correctly in the first place. So just because you have an amazing composition doesn't mean that you're going to beat a worse composition at all. Now, one thing that I would highly suggest you stop doing, that many of you doing too much, and it's flexing or filling all the time. I know you always want that smoke, and I know you always want that sentinel or whatever the case may be, but the thing is, if you start flexing every single chance you get, you're never going to be able to play the characters that you want to play. You're never going to get good at the characters you want to get good at, and you're going to end up flexing or filling forever. This is going to mean that you're going to spend most of your time on characters like Omen, Brimstone, Cypher, Killjoy, and you're not going to be able to play duelists that you like, or even initiators that you like. And if you want to be a Sova expert, you can't afford to be playing a whole bunch of different characters all the time. You're just never going to get good enough on Sova. Remember what I said, team composition matters, sure, but it doesn't matter all that much if people aren't doing their job correctly. And with you flexing and filling all the time, there's no guarantee that you're playing your character correctly. And there's also the point that you need to consider, which is you would have a lot more impact on a character that you have put time and effort mastering rather than just being surface level on tons of different characters. Now, the next problem that you're most likely going to run into, and it's the terrible buy problem. You save around and some of your teammates buy, and then you want to buy and your teammates can't afford it. So it just keeps getting fucked up over and over and over again. Now, communication is going to help this a lot. Doesn't mean they're going to listen, but if you could communicate and say, hey, can we save? Or just spam the let's save button. A lot of times people will listen. I mean, it's not going to happen every time, but it should happen at least some percentage of the time. Sometimes people just kind of autopilot, buy their weapons, buy their armor, and then they're like, oh shit, maybe I should save. Now, that being said, you gotta still do your best even with your team's limited cooperation. If you can never have perfect buys, factor in things like ultimates as a factor into buying or not, because when your team has ultimates and you invest those ultimates, you give yourself a higher likelihood chance of winning, carrying your guns over, carrying that economy over, and not trading these weapons for free to the enemy. Now, I know I've been talking a lot of shit about some of the problems in lower ranks, but let's talk about some of the benefits and some things that you can do in lower rank to really distinguish yourself that you can't really do as much in higher rank. The first thing that you need to understand about lower rank is there is a far slower time to kill. This is why weapons like LMGs are seeing a lot of play, and this is why a lot of times there is someone that is extremely good mechanically that's smurfing, and you just notice it right off the bat. They're just clicking head after head after head. A lot of the time, if they peek an angle where someone else already knows where they are, someone else is already looking at that angle, by all accounts, they should actually be losing that duel. That being said, the gunplay is not proficient enough. People aren't killing fast enough to punish this player, and they're kind of going a little bit crazy. Essentially, what I'm telling you is there's a lot of progress that you can make at the lower ranks just with your mechanical skill alone. That gunplay could be a huge difference. Learning the map, learning the pre-angles, learning that crosshair placement, focusing on your recoil control. I mean, we've talked about this stuff a lot, but as you start to climb the ladder, it's going to become harder and harder to improve gunplay wise, because the more you learn, the less quickly you improve. So there is a lot you could do at the lower ranks to really distinguish yourself. You're in a situation where the time to kill is lower, but if you can consistently punish these enemies who can't one-tap you or can't kill you right off the bat, that's going to be the way that you start to develop and learn the skills that you need to punish high-ranking enemies later on, beat them in other factors besides just mechanical skill. Now, the next thing that you need to understand about the benefits of low rank is that a lot of people are not putting in that ability grind. This is the out of the game grind or out of the match grind. Things like rollouts, lineups, movements, and things like that. You very rarely find a Raze, for instance, that has mastered Raze movement that is stuck in some place like bronze. It doesn't happen very often because movement gives you such a huge advantage if you've mastered it, but they obviously haven't taken the time and effort outside of the game to really hone it or practice it. Same thing for lineups. I mean, people don't start learning lineups for something like Sova until like Plat or even Diamond, but if you can learn these things, you really can set yourself apart from a lot of the people in your rank while you develop your other skills that is going to help you as you progress up the ranks. Basically, this is just one thing that you could focus on when you say, hey, I'm stuck at said rank. Well, have you put in that grind? Have you started to learn these things? And if you haven't, then you probably haven't been putting in enough effort to distinguish yourself and help you benefit. And that's the great thing, is if you put in this effort, you can help yourself climb, and that's just a very easy window to do so. Now, the next thing that you need to understand about low rank is that people have less ego. This is a problem that happens as people climb the ranks, where people just have an ego on their sleeve, even though there's always someone better that is gonna shit on you. But I guess it's because some of these high rank, and not even that high rank, you know, plat, diamonds, immortals, where they go down and they can smurf and they can kind of boost their ego, so they kind of feel a little bit like assholes, if I'm being honest. And you're not gonna get that as much in low ranks, but some people are still gonna have that ego. If they have that ego, just mute them, because they shouldn't have the ego. But at the very least, people aren't going to be talking down to you all the time and things like that. So that is one benefit of low rank that I wanted to point out. Now, the last thing that you need to understand about the low ranks of Valorant is once you climb high to a certain high rank in Valorant, the game starts to feel kind of like a job. The lower rank you are, like I said before, the faster you improve and the easier it is to improve. So you can have progress so quickly. This is why people that have messaged me that have gotten a GameLeap premium sub have all of a sudden went from something like iron all the way to gold, because that is a progress that you can make. But someone going really quickly from like Immortal 1 all the way to like top 10 or top 100, that shit just doesn't happen, because it's a slower grind. It takes way more hours, it takes way more effort, and you're not gonna feel the changes as much. It's gonna be really small changes, which can feel unsatisfying. So not only are you gonna have a lot more fun playing the game, especially if you don't care too much about your rank, because the rank will come with skill, you're gonna have this time to enjoy the game and figure out what kind of player you are, what kind of playstyle you like, who you want your main to be, and things like that. And I think it's one of the best times. The best time you have with a game is really when you're kind of improving through these lower ranks and really rapidly improving and rapidly ranking up. It's definitely a great feeling. But go to the GameLeap website in the links down below for high quality in-depth guides at a fraction of the cost with our special 50% off summer sale. We're gonna do in-depth guides over KO, in-depth guides over every map and mode. We got a lot to talk about, so go check it out down below. But thank you so much for coming by. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I love yo faces, and I'll see you next time.